There was a highly requested video for a glass effect, so today we're gonna do it. I'm gonna show you how to create that whole scene from A to Z. But before we begin, like always, there's not a lot of time left to get motion essence at half the price. This is by far the best product I've released, so if you apply code OLDPRICE at checkout, you're still gonna get 50% off. That being said, we're gonna get straight into creating that glass effect. Alright, so we're back. Let me just show you the comp settings. Let's hit OK. And the first thing we need to do is basically grab the wallpaper on the timeline, and you can use anything you want, it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna apply the effect called exposure, and I'm gonna change it to -4. So this is gonna be extremely dark, but then if we bring the bin with the glass effect, it's gonna be so much brighter, and this is gonna give us a nice separation. So we can lock the wallpaper for now, and what I'm gonna do is grab the rounded rectangle tool, and we're just gonna create such a shape. Something like that should do. I'm gonna recenter, I'm gonna probably decrease the size, and we need to decrease the roundness as well. Okay, something like that should be pretty cool. We can actually solo out this layer, turn on the transparency grid, and I'm just gonna head over to the rectangle one, right click over here and convert to Bezier path. Now our goal is to basically delete that point over here, then this one as well, and we're just gonna select these four, hit Ctrl T, and while holding Ctrl and Shift, we're just gonna squeeze it in order to have that bin shape. It's quite important to do a good job here because otherwise it's gonna be really hard to adjust it later on. I think I'm gonna just select these two, drag them a bit lower, and yeah, I think this is reminding of a bin. We're gonna add one point over here. We're just gonna drag it a bit upwards. Okay, this is gonna be called inside bin. Make sure the layer is black, and then we're gonna duplicate it and we're gonna rename it to outside bin. Make sure to solo out only that layer. And here essentially what you need to do is just select that point we created and drag it lower. Then I'm gonna hit G, hold Alt, and drag these points, these dots on the sides, to the middle, just like so. And this is our second part of the bin. So now what we're gonna do is duplicate outside bin 2 more times. I'm gonna rename these layers, so this one is gonna be outside bin base, this one is gonna be outside bin edges, and this one is gonna be called cover. Then what we're gonna do is disable some of the layers. We can disable the wallpaper, inside bin, and also the cover. So for starters, I'm gonna right click on the outside bin edges, and we're gonna go to the layer styles, and we're gonna apply inner glow. Let's head over to the properties. We're gonna change the color to white, hit OK. We can change the blend mode to normal, and we're gonna bump up the size. I'm gonna probably adjust the opacity to 100%, and yes, something like that should do. If we need some adjustments, we're gonna figure it out later on. Alright, so we're pretty much set with the outside bin. You can disable this layer now, and we can start applying some effects to our outside bin base. But first, let's just turn it into an adjustment layer, and we're gonna apply fast box blur. Then we're gonna have exposure, also noise, transform, and displacement map. So basically 5 effects. We're gonna leave the fastbox blur for now. We're gonna start with the exposure. So I'm gonna apply the value 3 over here. Then as for the noise, something like 3/4 should be fine. Make sure to uncheck use color noise. And then as for the scale, we're gonna bump it up to around 130. Now here in the displacement map, what we want to do is change the layer to outside bin edges. Make sure to change the source with the effects and masks. Now let me just show you, we're gonna bring back our wallpaper, and now what we want to do is play around with the values. So this is gonna distort our edges. So since we got outside bin edges over here, this is only gonna affect these white edges. So now as you can see, only the edges are distorted, which is pretty cool. And I don't really want to have a lot going on over here. I'm just gonna change the horizontal displacement to 0, while the vertical one is gonna be set to 30. So if you select all 4 layers now and you start dragging it around, it's gonna look pretty cool. We're gonna get that nice glass effect on the sides. Alright, now we need to take care of our wall inside the bin, because otherwise it's not really visible and we can't really see that there's a hole in there. So for this, I'm gonna enable the layer and we're gonna apply CC light sweep effect. Alright, so if you grab the center, you're gonna notice that we got that nice sweep over here, but we don't really want to have the front affected. So for this, we're gonna take advantage of our outside bin cover. So if we head over to the modes and we change the track matte in our inside bin to outside bin cover, and we invert the matte, we're only gonna affect that part, which is pretty cool. So now what I would like to do is change the light reception to cutout, and that way it's gonna be transparent. We can actually decrease the sweep intensity over here to 0. I'm gonna change it to smooth. I'm gonna bump up the width, and let's play around with this. Okay, edge thickness. Okay, pretty cool actually. You can always play around with the colors. Maybe something like light green would be cool here, but honestly, I think I'm gonna stick with white. So now I'm going to create a new null object and I'm going to rename it to bin controller. Now let's go ahead and select all these layers By the way, make sure that these two are disabled over here. And I'm just gonna parent them to the bin controller. Now I'm gonna create a keyframe for position, go back, and we're just gonna move it upwards. Okay, something like that should do. I'm gonna select both keyframes, hit F9, and we're just gonna head over to the graph editor and make sure to create a peak on the left. Okay, this is already looking pretty sick. Look at the distortion when it's going downwards. That's fire. Just keep in mind to have the bin in the middle because the light sweep over here is set exactly at that position. So when we're up there, it's already starting. So at the end position, it's gonna go over here. And that way we get that feeling like it's 3D. Okay, but this is very slow. I like my animations to be a bit faster. And now we're ready to actually bring our AE logo on the timeline. So what I'm gonna do is scale it down, something like that should do. And then I'm just gonna pre-compose that layer. Let's make sure to select that circle and I'm gonna rename it to logo. Actually, we can go into the logo and what I'm gonna do is apply tritone effect. Alright, this is already looking pretty minimalistic. And actually these colors are matching the forest in the background. And what I'm gonna do is actually have the position for the bin a bit lower. Somewhere here should be fine. Then we're gonna be throwing AE into the bin. Whenever After Effects is crashing, you probably want to do that. But in general, we love After Effects, right? It's just for the sake of teaching. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is make sure that the logo is between inside and outside bin. So that way we are already getting that nice effect. One thing I've noticed is that it's a bit too big. So for this, I'm gonna head back to the base and we're just gonna change the scale to 120. Alright, this should be good. I'm gonna scale down the logo a bit. Alright, so now we need to create a movement for the logo. So for this, I think I'm gonna bring it from the right. So let's just create a keyframe for position, move it to the right like that, be on the screen, then move forward and bring it to the middle. Okay, right, a bit more towards the middle. Proportional grid is gonna help us out. And now we're gonna move forward and the next keyframe is gonna be throwing it into the bin. All right, now I'm gonna select all the keyframes, hit F9 and apply the mid graph. So basically, if you go to the graph editor, we're just gonna have two peaks. Let's make some adjustments. I'm gonna have it faster in the beginning. Right, honestly, this is looking fire already. This is gonna be even better. So now something we need to do is basically hit Ctrl D for the logo. I'm gonna hit U and I'm gonna delete all the keyframes for position. Now I'm gonna parent the position in our one logo to the other one and we can rename it to logo inside and then the other one is gonna be called logo outside. And now with the help of the bin cover, what we're gonna do is set the track matte in one of the logos to bin cover and then the other one as well. But one of them needs to be inverted. So now let's say we're gonna apply the effect to one of them, then the effect is gonna be visible only inside or outside. Okay, but what we're gonna do is delete the deep glow and I'm gonna apply Gaussian blur instead. If I bump it up, you're gonna notice that whenever logo is getting into the bin, it's blurred. So this is a pretty cool effect. I think I'm gonna go for something like 5, maybe 10. Then also I'm gonna add tint and exposure. I'm gonna decrease the exposure and this is already pretty nice. So now as for the outside logo, so this one, I'm gonna add deep glow effect. So this is gonna be a nice contrast between the two. So it's kind of deactivated when it's going into the bin. Then I'm gonna probably play around with the exposure a bit. I think I'm gonna set 2.7 and we could actually turn off the effects for that layer so our PC can handle this. And now for the last thing, we need to create a pointer. So make sure to head to the start tool and we're just gonna create a triangle, hold shift, recenter, and we're just gonna change the rotation to 180 and also we're gonna set the color to white solid. Now the same procedure as before, so open it up, right click, convert to Bezier path, then we're just gonna delete that point over here, this one as well, and if I hit Ctrl D for these three, I'll be able to squeeze them in. I'm gonna hit enter and I'm gonna bring up this one. So this is already looking like a nice pointer. We can rename it and we can definitely scale it down. All right. Now what I would like to do is make sure that the pointer is bringing the logo to the middle. So for this, I'm gonna go to the pointer. I'm gonna recenter the anchor point and I'm gonna put it somewhere here. We can actually hit U for the logo outside. Here it's starting and we're just gonna have that pointer over here. We can actually rotate it a bit. Actually, a good idea would be having the anchor point on the top and then we can create a keyframe for position. Also the one for rotation, we can actually start like that. Then we're gonna move to the mid keyframe and I'm gonna go to the left just like so. Then also let's play around with rotation. We can go to the left even more, maybe a bit downwards. Okay, now I'm gonna copy the values from this. So basically that's the graph and apply that graph over here. So let's see how it looks. So now it's nicely attached. We might actually wanna be more in the middle. I'm gonna apply the same graph again. and I'm just gonna imitate that throwing effect. Okay, so let's do it like that. And this will need to be a bit faster. Let's read the values over here. It's the mid graph, and we're gonna apply it as well. Okay, pretty cool. I'm seeing that the logo is starting a bit faster. So for this, I'm gonna go to the graph editor and I'm gonna make sure that the pointer is faster than the logo. Okay, now it's too fast. Ooh, I think we got a sweet spot. All right, nice. I'm gonna probably select all these keyframes over here and have them a bit earlier. And also remember, you can always go to the wallpaper. Let's say scale it up, create a keyframe for position, and just have a little movement, because this is gonna cause the edges to move. So this is such a nice effect. Actually, I'm gonna start it a bit earlier. We might actually use opacity keyframes for the pointer, and I'm gonna change it to 0. Okay, let's do it a bit faster. And in case if you want to make the bin more visible, you can always go to the base and bump up the exposure. Oh, it might be even better. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is definitely turn on the motion blur on everything. I'm gonna pre-compose the whole thing. And what we could do is actually add a new adjustment layer, add transform. Then we can set the keyframe for scale, hit U, move closer, and then we're just gonna easy ease both keyframes, and we're gonna create a peak on the left. Damn it, the animation starts a bit too late. So I'm gonna go into that pre-comp and we're just gonna take all the keyframes and drag them like that. Okay, so let's see now. And by the way, you can use so many different effects over here. So if you go for VR chromatic aberrations, it's also gonna have a nice look. That's pretty dope actually. Okay, and one more thing, let's call it transform. It's just heading to the position, alt clicking the stopwatch. Let's type in wiggle and in brackets, let's add 1,10. Also, I'm gonna bump up the scale a bit. All right, so this is already looking fire, but I also left one effect, which is fast box blur. So in case, if you want to have it blurry over there, you can always bump up the blur radius and you're gonna achieve a nice look. So let's look at that. I feel like it's pretty cool, but what I would do is just keyframe blur radius, hit U, and make sure when the logo is dropping in, we're just gonna change the value. Let's adjust it. Okay, I'm gonna go back, and now it's looking like it's got that liquid effect. Absolutely amazing. So here you got the final result. Hopefully the tutorial was insightful and you learned something new today. That being said, we're gonna wrap it up here. Remember about the cold oat price, because there's not a lot of time left, like I said. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.